Hello and welcome to the Idiot Rambles podcast, the podcast where I either ramble about a random topic for however long, or I bring in a guest and make them ramble about a random question or topic for however long. I'm your host, Jay, and for today's first episode, I thought it'd be fun to go and just rank movie genres, start out simple, and I'll go and give my recommendation for each genre as well. So I have Tier Maker pulled up right here, so let's just get straight into this. Alright, looks like first up here we have action. Uh, Probably the most genre I watch the most. I don't want to give it an S though, just 'cause how many bad action movies there are out there. I think I'll give it an A tier. A for action. Like action movies are great and all. There's so many bad ones out there. I really can't give it an S in good conscience. Obviously, that applies to any genre, but I think for action especially, it's really bad. For my recommendation, uh, I haven't seen the John Wick movies, so I don't really need to recommend those. I'm not going to recommend a superhero movie, because I'm sure you guys have seen all of them. I'm going to give it to Nobody. It's made by some of the people who worked on the John Wick movies. It's a really great movie. I know a lot of people don't care for it. For me personally, I like the story. I think the action's fun, and I actually prefer it over the John Wick movies. So that'll be my recommendation. Nobody. And even has Saul Goodman in it, so how could you not want it? Alright, looks like next up's Adventure. Um, hmm. I like adventure movies. It's a very broad genre as well. I think we have it an A, but I'm gonna put it below action. Like, I like adventure and everything, but it's not. I'm never gonna be like, oh, I can't wait to watch this adventure movie and see what adventures they go on. Like, it's. If I watch when it's good, I'll like it, but not really anything else. Um, Recommendation, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, what else do you want me to give for recommendation? If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's one of the most iconic adventure movies of all time. It's amazing. It's an amazing movie. All right, looks like next up it has animation. I don't know why they have this on that list. That's not a genre. Let me just add a new tier real quick. Medium, not a genre. I need to change the color of it as well, or else it will annoy me. Medium, not a genre. That's where animation goes in. If you call animation a genre, like, what are you doing? Really? My recommendations. I'm gonna give two here. My Neighbor Totoro and Into the Spider-Verse. Both of these are such vastly different movies. They kind of show why animation's not a genre. It's a medium. It's an art form. If you haven't seen either of them, just watch them. I'm sure you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, because who hasn't? And My Neighbor Totoro is such a relaxing movie. It's a real comfort movie for me. Next up's biography. I do not care enough about biography to rank it, so I'm just gonna add a row below. Don't care enough to rank. Yeah. What color do I want it to be? I'll make it purple. Yeah, I don't care enough to rank biography. I don't have a specific recommendation. I mean, I guess Oppenheimer. About if I'm looking at the categories here, we'll get to that later. Comedy. You know what? C for comedy. C for comedy. This is like action, but worse. Like a good comedy movie is great. And by the way, if you have any recommendations for good comedies, leave them in the comment section below because I need new good ones. Because I feel like I've watched every good one. Like a good comedy movie is great and everything. It, I mean, yeah, no, I don't have much else to say. It's great, but there's so many horrible, horrible, mediocre ones out there that just are such a drag to try to get through. I, it has to go and see. My recommendation, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I've never tried charting it, but I'm sure Scott Pilgrim has gotten more laughs out of me per minute than any other movie. The only other comedy I could think of that comes close to Scott Pilgrim is Superbad, but I think Scott Pilgrim's just easier to get into for any audience. Crime. Um, B tier. I don't watch crime that often. It's not really my thing. I like a good crime movie. It, I don't seek them out though. So my recommendation, I'd give it Anatomy of a Fall. Anatomy of a Fall is a movie I didn't plan on watching. It's kind of like watched it on a whim one day. It's so good. Please watch it if you haven't. The ending had me thinking about it for days on end. It's really great. Documentary, more like D tier documentary. Yeah, it goes in D tier. Unless it's already unless it's over a topic you're already interested in, documentaries just aren't worth watching. I'd rather just read a book about that topic. So my recommendation, I mean, it would be Won't You Be My Neighbor, but that's because it's over something I'm already interested in. So just find a documentary over a topic you like, form your own opinion on the genre. Yeah. Drama, I'm gonna put it in A tier. I like drama. I've definitely been watching too many dramas lately, and I think that's kind of the problem. A lot of movies released nowadays, especially ones that are really popular, are dramas. So you get tired of them after a while, even if they're great and everything. It's like, okay, I'm tired of watching something this dramatic. I need something lighter. Hence why I asked for comedy recommendations earlier. My recommendation for a drama, I'm gonna give it to Marriage Story. If you've never seen it, watch it. I'm sure you've seen that scene of Adam Driver yelling at Scarlett Johansson. That's not even my favorite scene in the movie. It's such an amazing movie. I watched it on a car ride eating Dairy Queen, and it's great. I need to rewatch it soon. It really is a great movie. Family movies. B tier? Like, I like family movies. Obviously, it's the first genre of movies many people watch, but not too many of them. Only like a select few have like appealed to me at this point. A lot of them are obviously more targeted towards a younger audience. That's not saying you can't enjoy something meant for a younger audience, but only a select few family movies know how to cater to both a younger and older audience. You have movies like Lion King, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, pretty much any like older Pixar movie. All of those do that really well, and those would also be my recommendations. I can't just give one, but like I don't know. I'm never gonna go out of my way to watch a family movie in theaters unless my family wants to go see one. But I'm never gonna go seek them out really. All right, fantasy. I think this might be the first S tier. The fantasy genre, there's so much you can do with it. It's unlimited potential, essentially, with what's possible within these movies. Not a lot of movies like realize that potential, but I don't know, it's just great. It's not even a genre like I watch particularly often. I mean I can't give it below an S. It really is great. And obviously, most people go with Lord of the Rings for a recommendation. I haven't seen them yet at the time of recording this, so I'm gonna give it to Spirited Away. I do prefer My Neighbor Totoro, but I think Spirited Away is just a better encapsulation of the fantasy genre, so that's why I would give that for my recommendation. History goes in C tier. Um, See, when I think of history, I mainly think of like biopics or war movies. And war movies, I mean, I like them, but they don't stand out in my mind. And biopics usually get so many things wrong and just glaze the person they're going over that it kind of loses its luster. And this is when I bring back Oppenheimer, because that'd be my recommendation for a history movie. If you want to count that for my biography recommendation too, go ahead. But I mean, it won like what, 7, 8, 9 Oscars or whatever. You've heard of Oppenheimer. You've heard people talk about it. Just like give yourself an afternoon to go watch it. It's really great. Horror. What do I want to put horror in? I'm teetering between A and B. I'm gonna give it B. I'm gonna put it below. I'm gonna put it above crime actually. B right on the cusp of A. I like horror a lot. Just this last Halloween, I watched one horror movie every day for the entirety of October. So I have a lot of experience with the genre. And yeah, I mean, I it has the same problem as action, I think, where there's so many slop horror movies, but with horror, it's even worse. But a good horror movie, I mean, I don't particularly get scared of movies, so horror doesn't do that for me, but I get immersed in horror movies a lot, and I think that's what's great about this genre. My recommendation, I know a lot of people love Hereditary. I didn't really care for it that much, so I'm gonna give it to The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse has a really, I mean, obviously I love Robert Pattinson, I love Willem Dafoe, and I like the story a lot. It's the kind of story, like the way the plot's told and everything, that I'm personally into. I think the horror actually works really well in The Lighthouse. There's one particular scene, and if you've seen the movie, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. There's one scene where while it was happening, I had to like exit to I had to like minimize the screen, go to another tab because I was like watching at 11 p.m. at night and I was like I'm not watching this full screen. So that'd be my recommendation. Musical. I used to be a huge musical person. I mean, I was a Steven Universe fan growing up. But at C tier, like obviously a good musical is great. You know, I'll probably add the whole soundtrack to my playlist for a good musical. But again, you get the same problem as comedy. There's so many that are just tiring and a drag to get through. And I don't want to like talk about the fan bases of these genres because I feel like that's kind of unfair. But for musicals, I musical fans are so annoying. And I was a former musical fan, so I'm able to say that. For my recommendation, I'm gonna give it to La La Land. I love La La Land a lot. The music in there in particular is really great. I have, I think most of the soundtrack on my main playlist. It's, I Even if you don't love musicals, I feel like you could still really appreciate La La Land. All right, mystery. Very similar to crime. What would I give mystery? I put it the same thing as crime, but put it bottom of B. Um, I mean, I prefer a crime movie over a mystery movie, and yeah, no, I don't have much to say about mystery that I didn't already say about crime. My recommendation, I don't want to give it to Anatomy of a Fall again, because I feel kind of unfair. Probably Knives Out. I like Knives Out a lot. I rewatched it recently. Still holds up really well. I like the mystery a lot. I like the twist. The whole. It's a good movie. Watch it if you haven't. I haven't seen the sequel yet. I need to watch it probably during the summer. So yeah, check out Knives Out. Romance goes in A tier. Is there a lot of slop romance? Yes. But romance movies are so good at their peak. I'm still gonna give it an A. The best romance movies, they'll like bring you such happiness and joy when you're in a relationship, and then when you're single, they put you in like the worst mood possible, but in the best way at the same time. It's weird. And I know I just said I didn't want to give Anatomy of a Fall a recommendation twice, but my romance recommendation is going to be La La Land. I don't care that I already gave it. La La Land is so good. Just watch it now. After this episode, go watch La La Land. It's amazing. I love it so much. It's such a good movie. It took me so long to watch it, and then once I finally watched it, I loved it. You'll love it too. Just watch it. Sci-fi. S tier. I love sci-fi a lot. It's probably the genre I grew up on the most, because I loved sci-fi stuff as a kid. I think it's a lot like fantasy with what you can do with the genre, but I enjoy what you can do with sci-fi more. Just like the worlds you can go to, the stories you could tell. It's all really great. My recommendation is Dune Part 2. If you haven't seen Dune 1, watch that first, obviously, but I love Dune Part 2. Hopefully, at some point, I'll make like an actual video over Dune 2 and not just a podcast episode. So I'm not going to say too much here, just watch Dune Part 2. I watched it 3 times in theaters for a reason, all in the span of about 3 weeks as well. I would have gone more times if my theater was still playing it. It's great. It's such a good movie. Sports movies? I don't care enough to rank them. I don't. You really think someone making a podcast episode over movie genres, watches sports in real life? No. I played soccer in 3rd grade and I played basketball in 4th and 5th grade. That's my experience with sports in general. I still don't know how to play football. I don't care about sports in real life, so I don't care about sports movies that much. I haven't seen enough of them to actually give a valid ranking, so I'm not going to put them in D tier. My recommendation, I'm going to give it to the Iron Claw, because that is a sports movie, technically. And yeah, obviously not counting the story, which is amazing, and the performances that are great. This actual sports aspect works really well, and is actually interesting and intriguing. Watch The Iron Claw. It was one of the few movies to make me cry within the last few years. It's so good. Just watch it. And then lastly, we have Thriller. I'm gonna give it an S, but the very bottom of S. I like thrillers. Don't get me wrong, but actually, I don't know why I'm saying it, but yeah, I like thrillers a lot. Usually, they're not like a solo genre. They go with other genres and enhance them, almost, if that makes sense. So that's why I think it should go in S. Obviously, on its own, it can't stand as well as sci-fi or fantasy, but it still enhances everything else well enough to the point where I'm fine with giving it as high as I do. My recommendation, ooh, I'm debating between 2 movies. I really like Scream a lot. I don't really think Scream is much of a horror movie as much as thriller. And I guess you could also count that as mystery. But I think No Country for Old Men is a better thriller. If you haven't, they make a choice in No Country for Old Men to not have like an actual, they don't play any kind of like music, they don't have an original soundtrack. And in action scenes, the choice to not have any kind of soundtrack does so much for the suspense. You have to watch it just to really understand it. It's so good. It works so well. And yeah. So that's the list. Looks about right to me. If you disagree, then say something in the comments to boost engagement on the video, but don't leave anything hateful, because I don't feel like getting in a comment section argument. Make sure to like this episode. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, where I do more than just this podcast, but that's mainly what I do. And yeah, that's about it. Bye.